Opening statement time.
Thank you. I would ask the people of Illinois to send me back to another 6-year term so I can continue giving the thoughtful, bipartisan service to the state that includes my record of saving the Export-Import Bank of the United States, which was responsible for over 40,000 jobs right here in Illinois. And put together the bipartisan Kirk Menendez sanctions that were the entire reason why the Iranians even showed up to negotiate with our president. And I would say that I have laid the groundwork for making sure we have some of the best environmental protections. We're banning sewage dumping in the Great Lakes to protect the source of the drinking water for 30 million Americans.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be here today. I'm so proud to be highlighting University of Illinois at Springfield, world-class university. You know, as I've traveled the state, I see so many working families that are like mine. My dad was laid off when he was in his 50s, and there's so many working families that here the economy is getting better, but they don't see it in their hometowns. What they see are steel mills shutting down, auto plants shutting down, people getting laid off, struggling, trying to make ends meet. I see college students who don't know how they're going to afford to go to college. And I'm running for the United States Senate to fight for working families that are just trying to catch a break, trying to do what they can to get ahead, to make sure their kids have a better life than themselves. And that means we have to have affordable higher education. It means that we must work to provide tax credits for companies that keep jobs here instead of sending jobs overseas. We need to make sure that working families that are just trying to catch a break, if they're not willing to give up on themselves, we shouldn't give up on them either. That's why I'm trying to get to the United States Senate, to fight for everyday hardworking Illinoisans, everyday families that just want to make sure that their children's lives are better than their own. And frankly, they don't see that right now. They don't see that opportunity, that future in front of them the way they did when they were coming up and they felt that they had a better life than their parents. Send me to the United States Senate. I will work hard every single day for the working families of this state. I know what it's like because my family went through it. I went through it. Thank you.
The first question starts off asking the candidates on the qualifications for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Duckworth's response mentions voting for Clinton and then brings up the issue of the SCOTUS appointee. She does well not to demonize either Trump or Clinton, whether or not she supports either of their policies.
But regardless of who is president of the United States, we need to come together and work across the aisles. We need to do things like have a hearing on the Supreme Court nominee for the president, whether it is Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. We need to make sure we work to bring jobs right back here to the United States, to our hometowns, to Illinois. And so, you know, the reality is government hasn't worked for the last 2 years. And the way we can get it working again is to make sure that we put aside the partisanship, we put aside the anger, and let's come together and work on the things that are most important to us, which is each other and this great nation. And remember that both Hillary and Donald truly do love America.
Kirk was barely audible. He responded with something about Duckworth being bipartisan, and I think I heard something about gun trafficking towards the end of it. He has come out and said that he is against Donald Trump. He mentions this later on.
If you're as partisan as my opponent, I worry that she will go to war with the 54 Republicans in the Senate. If you're at war with the 54 Republicans in the Senate, you cannot get anything done in the Senate. I have been one of the most bipartisan senators out there, typified by my work with Kirsten Gillibrand to make sure we criminalize gun trafficking to criminal organizations. Because the state of Illinois cannot be the headquarters of Murder Incorporated anymore.
Murder Inc. Okay. When questioned on his recent stroke, Kirk did all right to address his health as not an issue, giving a fighting, never give up, never surrender type of attitude.
When you conquer something as difficult as a stroke, you get in there and you're going to fight to make sure you deliver for the people of Illinois.
Then, as Duckworth was giving her response, interrupts her and he says this.
Legitimate issue in this race?
No, I think the senator is perfectly capable of doing his job.
I would say that we both agree on one key point, that we both think the next senator for Illinois should use a wheelchair.
Okay, I mean, if you can laugh about it, that's great, but this is not really the time to make that kind of joke. Duckworth made a point that her issue with Kirk was not with his health, but with his inability to make a decision on SCOTUS.
Well, look, I think the senator is perfectly capable of doing his job. The concern I have is he's not doing his job. The fact of the matter is he touts his leadership on Merrick Garland and the Supreme Court nomination, but he met with Merrick Garland in March. He said he called on his colleagues to hold a hearing, but nothing has happened. It's October.
Off-call remarks that were made about Obama.
I also wonder about a senator who calls the president the drug dealer in chief.
And something about sending birth control to Mexico to prevent illegal immigration.
Back in 2007 said that one of the best things that we can do to combat illegal immigration from Mexico is to send contraceptives free to Mexico. These are not solutions that help.
She moves on to talk about the Equal Pay Act.
He voted against the Equal Pay Act for women and called it the most sexist legislation ever.
Student debt.
He voted against allowing students to refinance student loan debt.
And him bad-mouthing us to China, saying that we're not a good investment.
He even traveled to China and told the Chinese not to invest in America because we were not a good bet. These are not all the hallmarks of a senator who's looking out for the people of Illinois. And the people of Illinois deserve someone who's going to fight for them every single day.
I get that this sounds terrible, but what does this have to do with his health? I mean, I guess you could make the argument without technically saying that his mental state has been impaired, without saying that it's because of his health, saying that he is still competent and all of this has to do with just his regular idea of policy, but that kind of seems like a stretch. You couldn't have brought these points up later on. It's not like you weren't going to be asked about these things. When Kirk is given the chance to respond, gives us this.
I would say that when we talked about drug dealers, that I strongly oppose the $400 million ransom payment that the president made in cash to the Iranians, even after he certified that they are the state sponsor of terror. Those drug dealer words are not mine. They're the words of the European Union.
When the issue of the civil lawsuit against Duckworth alleging workplace retaliation during her time as the head of Veterans Affairs was addressed, Duckworth seemed to avoid the question, pretty much just stating because she's been through it firsthand and was not left behind, that she would not leave any of them behind.
Well, from the first day that I woke up in Walter Reed in my hospital bed, I've been working on veterans issues. In fact, I got into politics because I met then Senator Barack Obama, who was on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and as a patient, I was calling him and Senator Durbin saying, look, we're not doing right by our vets and we need to do more. Veterans are my life's work. I will never leave my vets behind because my buddies didn't leave me behind. And so I'm not going to let political stunts stop me from doing what I truly feel is my calling, taking care of my vets.
When asked if this was a political stunt, Kirk gives a very sketchy detail about her record with the Veterans Affairs and the hiring of Jesse Bell, then points out that he has invited whistleblowers against Duckworth to sit in the front row of the audience. He then begins to practically wag his finger at Duckworth and babble on without giving much more detail.
No. I would say that the record of my opponent in serving veterans is really questionable. We see right in the front row here several whistleblowers who have been quite critical of you, not my words, but their words, of the people who directly served you. For Denise, for Chris Goins out there, I want to make sure that after 22 years of service in the Hannah VA, that she spoke up when the director of the facility went down to the public assistance office to ask anybody here who want to work for veterans, and a convicted felon, Jesse Bell, was invited in, even after being convicted for elder abuse. And after he first met with a veteran, he reduced that veteran to tears. And these brave women said, we cannot let this person into the VA. And these whistleblowers should be commended and applauded, not crushed like Tammy. You fired them directly just because they said how you were caring badly for veterans. I think that shouldn't have been done.
When Duckworth responds that the lawsuit regarding these cases has been thrown out, Kirk then interrupts her twice and says that she's a liar.
Congresswoman, 30 seconds.
Well, you know, Senator, you and I both know that that's not true. The lawsuit has been thrown out of court at least 2 times fully and
Actually,
one time
it's
in
important,
part.
Tammy, not to lie to the people of Illinois. The lawsuit has not been thrown out, and if you'd like to talk to the plaintiffs, they're right here. I just met with them this afternoon. They said they had rejected the settlement.
I'm sorry, do I get my time now?
Sorry, when you're lying, you don't get any time.
Congresswoman, your time.
Reclaiming my time. As I said, the lawsuit has been thrown out, dismissed at least 2 times fully, one part
Tammy, it has
partially,
not been
and
thrown out.
the
The
judge
litigants are
called
right
it.
here. Everybody should just let her. It's important not to lie direct to these people.
Senator, let's give Congresswoman a chance, and then we'll hear from you in a moment.
Dude, shut up.
Well, this is the last 30 seconds, is this mine?
We'll
Okay.
restart the clock.
All right, thank you.
Yes, can we please move this on?
It has been settled for nuisance value, which was the description of the latest settlement. As I said again, I am proud of my record for veterans. I will not let political stunts, I will not let the threat of lawsuits or political commercials stop me from doing what's right by veterans. From the first day that I woke up in Walter Reed, I've been working on veterans. They are my life's work. And frankly, you can threaten to sue me as much as you want, but if you don't do your job for veterans and you're a government employee, then I will come after you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we won't screw with you. Message received. Oh, Jesus. Kirk's record is then brought up, to which he passes the buck, saying that he only hurt himself with his own scandal and that Tammy hurt other people with hers.
Ernie, I would say that my past misstatements on my record have been small and selfish, and I only hurt myself. I didn't hurt veterans like my opponent, who hurt many veterans who died waiting in line when her cronies were manipulating the waiting list, as we heard about, in return for bribes at the Anna facility.
Tammy Duckworth just follows up with her positive record with the VA.
Veterans home when I was at the IDVA. We have veterans waiting, and perhaps folks in Chicago don't pay as much attention to what happens down here in central Illinois and further down south in southern Illinois, but it was really important to open those 80 beds to take care of the veterans here in central Illinois so that they had a place to go because there were long waiting lists.
The topic of sending more boots on the ground to Iraq and Syria to combat ISIS is asked, and I found both responses interesting.
Well, first and foremost, we must destroy ISIS. They are an enemy of the United States and all freedom-loving people. They are butchers and they are criminals. I support the use of drones and some smart airstrikes, surgical airstrikes, but I do not support further sending of American troops to foreign lands to fight ISIS unless the American people has authorized it. So while I support the U.S. taking a lead and going after destroying ISIS, I want to make sure our allies do their part. This is their backyard. Where Saudi Arabia is stepping up. Part of their policy is what created ISIS in the first place. Where is all of our allies who should be taking the lead, and that's going to be the focus of my policies.
Both candidates want surrounding countries in the area of the ISIS occupation to start lending a hand, as well as for the U.S. military not to use as much of our own resources in these areas.
The best way to defeat ISIS is to use Iraqi troops at boots over ground, and by that, with us serving as the Air Force for the Iraqi government. As they move towards Mosul, I hope that when they enter pockets of opposition, the United States Air Force can take care of it for the Iraqi government. It's much better to take care of this problem with Islamic troops who speak Arabic that are from the area. And I think with that, the current policy is the right way to go in defeating ISIS.
Duckworth wants drones and doesn't want to send more troops. Kirk wants boots on the ground. Personally, I don't know whether I'm for drones going out there or for soldiers, but I do agree that we should start asking those countries to start pulling their weight in everything. Now, next is where it starts to get a little interesting. The topic of the long-term American Middle East influence comes up, and honestly, the candidates kind of gave the same basic answer that they gave for the last one. But then,
you know, my family has served this nation in uniform, going back to the Revolution. I'm a daughter of the American Revolution.
To which my inner Gilmore went crazy because, oh my...
I've bled for this nation. But I still want to be there in the Senate when the drums of war sound, because people are quick to sound the drums of war, and I want to be there to say, this is what it costs, this is what you're asking us to do, and if that's the case, I'll go. Families like mine are the ones that bleed first. But let's make sure the American people understand what we are engaging in, and let's hold our allies accountable, because we can't do it all.
Senator Kirk, 30 seconds to rebut.
I had forgotten that your parents came all the way from Thailand to serve George Washington.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Whether or not whether or not that comment is racist, she just mentioned that she is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR. That is a pedigree. You can't just... You can't just claim that. You have to have substantial proof that you are a descendant of a specific bloodline in order to be considered that.
And you're welcome to take some time if you want to respond to that, too.
Sure. There's been members of my family serving in uniform. On my father's side, going back to the Revolution, I belong to the William J. Penny chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution right here. And if you go to Mount Vernon, Illinois, you'll see a statue of me put up by the Daughters of the American Revolution.
I only know this because of Gilmore Girls, and it's because that show references something that is common knowledge in this world, in politics and history, which is your world. Oh man, that just... Oh. Okay, so you survived my geek out there. So this is actually going to wrap up for the first of the 3 videos of the U.S. Senate chair debate. I will do my best to get these all uploaded within the next couple of days. The election is only a few days away. If you like what you saw here, then go ahead and subscribe. If you have questions or any ideas that we can use to improve these videos, go ahead and leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in.